Since you've just had a little time to think about the Torah reading, every year I'm struck with the fact that we read these stories on Rosh Hashanah. Why do we choose these parts of the Torah to read on this auspicious sacred day? God did not mandate that we read these sections. The rabbis of history, great scholars and philosophers over 2,000 years ago, before Freud got us to rethink the very idea that perhaps Isaac was carrying trauma from being bound on the altar as a sacrificial offering to God. Centuries before the Inquisition or the Crusades, centuries even before Islam, we were reading these words on Rosh Hashanah. First day, Abraham kicking his son Ishmael out of his house. Second day, Abraham binding Isaac on the altar. And every year, I wonder why these sections. Why not the creation of the world on a day when we celebrate the creation of the world? Why not the Garden of Eden when we remember that God has a personal relationship with each of us and we are like Adam and Eve. We are naive and confused and blaming each other for our wrongdoings. The Garden of Eden is a reminder that God sees us. We should read that section. Why not Shema or the Ten Commandments or Noah's Ark? Noah's Ark, the idea of rebuilding a world after suffering such loss. Those would all be fitting. And maybe some communities 2,000 years ago opted to read those before the uniformity of reading these specific sections took hold. Since we're reading about Abraham and Sarah, Hagar and Ishmael, I look at the takeaways. Some of them, caring for the outsider, loving our children equally, knowing that God sees us the way that God told Hagar, I see you. Not binding our children to altars and raising knives over their heads. All these are very good ideas. During the Torah reading, we also find that Abraham's heart gets turned to stone. When told that his son Ishmael, yes, it is his son from a woman who was not his wife, a woman he was forced into a relationship with in a confusing turn of events, but it's still his son nonetheless. When told that his son must be sent out into the wilderness, likely to die, he loses a piece of his humanity. To remember God chose Abraham for being just, for being so kind that even when in pain, even in old age, on a really hot day, he runs to greet strangers wandering through the desert. A bleeding heart if there ever was one, overly sensitive to the needs of others. When told that a city is pure evil and must be destroyed, he fights for their survival, arguing and negotiating with God to save the lives of strangers. And now Sarah mandated his son Ishmael be sent out to certain death. And he calcifies. His heart hardens, like we read about Pharaoh's heart hardening when thinking about enslaved people who want freedom. He becomes hard to life's realities. His heart stops pumping. It's no wonder that in the next chapter, which we read the second day of Rosh Hashanah, when told to take his other son to certain death, he doesn't even question it. He's so hardened, so resigned, not seeing a difference between Ishmael's plight and Isaac's. If this God is demanding children be sacrificed, then I give up arguing. I give up trying to save the innocent, and from this moment on, he no longer speaks to God. This is not the covenant I thought I was entering. We see his heart get harder and harder as he cares less for humanity, less for the pain of someone else. It doesn't matter that this time it's his favorite son. It's still nothing next to his stony insides. He was no longer able to love Isaac once he felt mandated to stop loving Ishmael. Love begets love, and indifference begets indifference. There were so many times this year I heard people espouse hatred. Simple, one-sided, blind hatred. Their hearts have been turned to stone. They have no ability to see the pain, the need of someone else. They can stand up and shout, pointing fingers that their side is right and the other side is wrong, without realizing the hypocrisy of it. To lament over the starvation of Gazans without noting all the holes in the argument, including the forced starvation of Israeli hostages. but also to say to you in this room, to lament over the starvation of Israeli hostages, the mistreatment, the murders on October 7th, the horror of it all, the failed negotiations, without admitting the pain of the other side. It's not about right and wrong, of which side is the perpetrator. It's the question of, can our hearts still bleed? Acknowledging suffering is not a loyalty statement. And this is the key to Judaism. It's the difficult part. Keeping kosher, keeping Shabbat, they're really not that difficult. But thinking about the welfare of your enemies, of your oppressors, seeing their humanity while they do inhumane things, this is the hard part of this covenant. And yet we try. At Seder, we sit around the table and take out 10 drops of wine, 10 drops of joy from our Kiddush cup, as we think of Egyptian suffering. They were the enemy. They captured us, enslaved us, beat us, subjugated us for hundreds of years. They were the bad guys in the story, no question. And still we acknowledge their suffering, still 3,000 years later. Sisera is a villain. In the book of Judges, he has it out to destroy the Israelites. He could have been the one to single-handedly wipe out our entire peoplehood as a great enemy of our existence. 2 women, Deborah and Yael, capture him and kill him, thereby saving Judaism. And the sound of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah is supposed to remind us that he had a family who mourned his death. Not that he was a good guy, not that we wanted him around, not that we would rewrite the story, but that their pain, their sadness at the death of a son is as real as ours. The most evil, most heinous character in the Torah is Amalek. May his name be erased. He is evil because he attacked the vulnerable, the defenseless. He didn't do the brave thing and fight the able-bodied warriors who were ready for battle. He found the stragglers, the children and the elderly, the unprotected, and he wiped them out in a cowardly, terrorizing act. We have 2 mitzvot related to Amalek. One is to wipe out his name completely, and the other is to remember what he did to us. These 2 seem to be in contrast with one another. How can we remember what he did to us if we can't even say his name? If we boo when we hear it, if we twirl a deafening grogger on Purim when we hear the name of one of his offspring? Because as Rashi explained to us nearly 1,000 years ago, the mitzvah, the sacred obligation, is to remember what Amalek did to us and to wipe out his deeds, to make sure that no one ever again is as evil as he was. This is the thrust of much of the prophets. Ezekiel and Jeremiah both mandate that we remove the heart of stone from our chests and replace it with a tender heart of flesh. It's not easy to have a heart of flesh. Calcifying our insides seems to make us strong, less susceptible to emotion. We're taught to be stoic and detached. News comes at us so fast, and our hearts have to be hard. Otherwise, we won't know how to respond. What takes priority? What gets our attention? As kids, especially as boys, we're told that we have to toughen up. The first translation of the Bible, from Hebrew into Aramaic, translates the phrase, a heart of stone, lev ha'evan, as a heart of cowardice. One that doesn't want to get involved, doesn't want to be broken, is afraid of shattering. That's not strength. It's robotic. Makes us into automatons. Makes us weak and inhumane. One of the places that this came to a head recently is reading the news from Israel. Our hearts break just remembering October 7th. Our hearts shatter thinking of Rachel Goldberg Poland ripping off another piece of masking tape, crying into the void for her son, knowing there are still innocent people held hostage. And they can also break for the innocents trapped on the other side, who are being used as human shields for a cause that they might not believe in, might not even understand. 2,000 years ago, the world, at least the known world around the Mediterranean, was broken into city-states. They each had a similar outlook: fight to the death. All money earned went to the war effort: defense, expanding boundaries, protecting resources. The only important people were the warriors, strong men who could fight. No one else in society was deemed worthy. The most notable in this realm was Sparta. They were so engulfed in ongoing wars that they had no culture aside from combat. There was no room for education or arts, no progressing civilization, like their neighbors were doing, because every penny went to war. Hence the word Spartan, for lacking comfort or luxury, as they had nothing for themselves, only for military. Strangely, the only ancient civilization that historian Tomer Persico can find that denied the Spartan trend was the Israelites. Our ancestors believed in the godliness of every person, even the ones who were no help in fighting wars. Our ancestors believed in the importance of stories and education, relishing the moniker people of the book. We weren't great at protecting our land, but we were great. And now we are the only people from that time that has survived, the only culture, the only civilization of that region that still exists. This is what's troubling about the leader of Israel entering his Chai, his 18th year as prime minister, claiming that Israel is now super Sparta. Not just Sparta, we are the chosen people, we're super Sparta. He chose to identify with a failed state that disengaged from its neighbors, all efforts going towards the war. A war of self-defense, an important war, yes. The man who helped define Israel as startup nation, who realized that sharing an economy, creating new technologies, developing agricultural techniques that could be used the world over, is now admitting that we have to reduce our presence and return to something so quaint as 1940s sensibilities, when Israel was just hoping to survive, when Israel was scrappy, when Israel's survival meant asceticism because there were not enough resources to share, since no one would trade with them. And with the recent despicable decisions by the EU and other major bodies, there's a chance that Israel will once again be isolated. While I do believe his comments about Israel being super Sparta were hyperbolic, as he's really good at making big statements, I worry about the Israelis on the ground. I worry about our friends. Or I worry about our cousins. I worry about the people who housed us during our honeymoon as we traveled through Israel, the people who housed us in Cholon and Pardes Chana Karkur, and the tiny village of Karkom just north of the Kinneret, where their lives become Spartan. There's a joke in Israel: how do you make a small fortune in Israel? By coming with a big fortune. And with a country where all available resources are going to self-defense, small businesses are closing at a rapid rate. Young adults fighting in the war who haven't had a day off in 150 days are hoping to eventually settle down and buy a house in Petach Tikva, start a family. There's an organization that's helping them. It's called Ogen, and it gives small loans to Israeli families and individuals and businesses in Israel. It gives real Israelis opportunity, not charity, to help rebuild. I believe that Israel, the nation and the people, will rise again if we give them the hand to hold, if we remind them that we believe in them and we show our support. So here I am. It's Rosh Hashanah again. Somehow I made it through this year, though my heart keeps shattering and I sit with my discord, with my pain. And I try to find how I can knock those final calluses off of my heart, to be as human and as vulnerable as possible, to hold the wisdom of this ancient tradition, to reconcile with the pain that Abraham must have felt, sending each son to near death. But he concealed those feelings somewhere deep inside so he would not have to confront them. Now each time in the next week I say Ashamnu, each time that I say Al Chet, I strike my heart, hoping to ensure that my heart is still flesh, giving myself permission to feel everything this year, even the uncomfortable feelings that others are telling me to deny. I only wish with those who disagree with me about Israel would also let their hearts be flesh, so they would understand our Israel's pain through these last 719 days. 2,000 years ago, Hillel asked a question that we quote often, but we struggle with. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If we're only for ourselves, then what are we? V'im lo achshav, and if not now, when? May this be the year when we and they, all of the theys, find a heart of flesh to replace the stony one we have inherited, so we can understand each other's pain, so we can worry about each other, to reconcile our existence and our humanity, because what makes us truly human is feeling our heart break, even for people we disagree with. One of the songs we have been singing this year, and for these past 719 days, is an ancient poem, a heartbreaking plea written 1,000 years ago for the release of hostages. It's known by its opening word, Achenu, our brothers, our siblings. Achenu kol beit Yisrael. All of us feel like a family. It imagines that we are all related. We all worry about each other. It begs that we go forth from subjugation to redemption. May this be a year of redemption, of health, and of seeing the humanity in each other. Shana Tova.